Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani. Hope we meet you well after what was a restful weekend. That, of course, depends on how you're situated, where you're situated, in terms of your occupation, because there are some people that just walk right through, But here we are, serious business on Monday, and our guests this morning, we got Senator Dike Plank. He's the senator representing Plateau Central Senatorial District. That might begin to send you some hints of what our conversation is going to be about. And also in the studio here, Senator Plank is joining us from his office in the National Assembly. And in studio, we have Dr. Tony Ofoyeton. He's a lawyer and Director General, International Institute of Professional Security. So I was talking about, maybe you might have caught the hint at home at what we're going to be talking about. Yep, you probably got it if you went there. Stopping the killings in Plateau State. Understanding them, yes, and then stopping them. But we've been going for, over 20 years, over 2 decades now, with this sad news. Everybody has been speaking on it. What are the sides, and perhaps more importantly, why are we able to get to the bottom of it and then stop it? That's what we're that's going to be our central question today. And so maybe, Senator Plank, could I come over to you, please, and just try and understand how you see this issue to other Nigerians. Why has this been going on for so long? Communities, people being killed, it's just the same old, same old. There's no resolution in sight. What exactly is the genesis, the bottom of this issue, Senator?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for creating time to discuss this very serious and disturbing issue on the Plateau. I'm glad, and I'm sure your intention at the end of the day is probably to enable us come to a level of understanding, come to a stage where we'll be able to arrest this ugly situation within ourselves. As you all know, conflicts normally come. And as you all know, it is easy for a conflict to start, but sometimes very, very difficult for you to stop it, especially when you have a conflict that has issues to do with identity. Sometimes very difficult. And at this moment, it will be very difficult for me as a person to tell you the genesis. But all I will tell you that on the Plateau, there has been a lot of clash. But the one in Central Zone, it is dated to about a few years back. I know the crisis was in the southern part of Plateau, and the crisis was in the northern part of Plateau, but the central part of Plateau, we've not witnessed this crisis in this dimension. The one in the central came up, and then the one in Mangu, so recent, but more volatile than ever expected, particularly that the Mangu local government area, one of the biggest local, most populated local government in the state, one of the most commercial local governments in the state, and one of the most agriculturally oriented local government areas in the state. It used to be a local government that have accommodated a lot of Nigerians. It has one of the biggest markets where people come from all over West Africa nationally to buy grains, particularly maize and then Irish potato that is taken in and out of this country. The crisis came in a particular community, but you all know that when a crisis comes in between two identities and there are reprisals, it expands. And normally, if you hear that the particular identity is in conflict with another identity, normally the reaction is reflex. The moment you see another person, another identity, you are already angry. And probably you could begin to retaliate or exchange anger. But both the new person you are seeing might be innocent. So for me, the crisis in Mangu came up, and the speed at which it expanded is unprecedented. And I would want to work more on the possibility of bringing this crisis to an end. And because I know the mind, I know they are accommodative, I know they accept all tribes, all citizens within them, but I know that probably there are misunderstandings. What we're in now is to try as much as possible to find an amicable solution so that we will return back to what Mangu used to be. I would prefer to talk in that dimension. I'm saying so because the reprisals will not help us. If that's why at the National Assembly, at one of our most famous sitting, I have no option than to bring it as a motion of public importance, urgent public importance. And I thank my colleagues in the Senate that really accepted my motion, supported my motions, and my prayers that followed the motion. They all agreed on my 4 prayers and even came out with an additional prayer that is very supportive to the resolution of crisis in my state. So for us as media people, for us as traditional rulers, for us as stakeholders, and for us as politicians, I think what is before us is our ability to come together and try to resolve. Conflict parties, we must resolve. We must say sorry to one another where we've gone wrong, and we must agree to forgive one another when we understand ourselves. And I pray that if this crisis, we have external, if we have people outside coming in between us for resolution, just as what the federal government is doing at the moment. I am very sure that we will build trust, and this thing can come to an end. Nobody likes what is happening on the plateau. That's my speech. I know I will have a lot of questions to ask. I will try as much as possible, all of us, to understand ourselves and for peace.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Senator. One further thing before I, come to my guest in studio. You talk about Plateau, names like the TV, the Idoma will always come up. That the peoples, the names of those peoples. Could you, just so that we have a more complete understanding, especially for, people far away from Plateau, and probably the only thing they get to know about Plateau is what they read in the newspapers. They don't live it. How do those peoples, the Tiv and the Idoma, for example, and perhaps there are any other ones, how do they figure in the conversation that we're having now? Their feelings, their attitudes. Senator, did you hear me? I believe it has, or has it frozen? Okay, we just heard Senator Dickett Plang speaking there. I'm not sure if you can hear me or not, Senator. I just asked you the question: how do the TV and the Idoma? How do they figure, those peoples, how do they figure in this? Because you talked about sometimes you have a crisis over identity, people, saying they are the indigenous people and all of that kind of a thing. We're hearing about unknown soldiers. So if you can hear me, Senator, I wanted you to, after thanking you for the balanced opening overview, I wanted to know what your thoughts are on how the Idoma and, for example, the TV people figure in the ongoing situation in Plateau.
Yeah, I know that you would want me to talk about indigenship and citizenship, because in most cases you will find conflict amongst citizens and indigents. But I also believe that the definition of citizens and indigents is not a conflicting conflicting definition. If amongst us, both indigents and citizens, and we respect and live mutually and understand the definition and accept the definition, constitutional definition of a citizen and also an indigent, I believe that we will live well. When I raised my motion at the National Assembly, my colleague Senator Zam supported, co-sponsored my motion, and he brought in their experiences in Benue. I remind you, we used to be Benue and Plateau together, and I believe that we have so many things in common. What I really want to say is that they are similar. In most cases, you discover that it is between indigents and citizens. And when there's a conflict between such, sometimes along the line, it raises a lot of anger amongst us. But I believe that Nigeria is not wrong. We are not wrong as a people to have a definition of a citizen and an indigent. My wish is that both sides should be able to respect each other as Nigerians, because we are first of all Nigerians, and we are first of all brought together by universal set called Nigeria. Our individual state or communities are subsets of the universal set Nigeria. And if we believe that as Nigerians that we are brothers and sisters and that we can live together because our target is a progressive country called Nigeria. And at the end of the day, at each level of government, at the state level, citizens and indigents appreciate their definitions, live by their constitutional definition, and live harmoniously together. We'll have a country that will move forward. So what I'm trying to say there is that in most cases, even in Benue, you find issue of indigents and non-indigents. In Plateau, you find indigents and non-indigents. Or otherwise, you find pastoral personalities and those that are into, and farmers. I mean, those that are into plowing the land. And sometimes you find conflict between the two of them. But I believe that both professions are right. We must have people that are into animal science. We will have people that are into agronomy. And we'll have people that are into forestry. And all of us will reap the dividend of each profession. But at the end of the day, we need to understand and appreciate each profession. Draw a line. You have a farmer who is an agronomist. You have a farmer who is an animal farmer, and he's into animal production. And you have another farmer probably who is into forestry. By the time we understand the importance of each, and we try to respect each other, and we try as much as possible to keep to our boundary of profession. One of the problems we have, if we understand the definition of our identities, and we respect each identity, and then we try as much as possible to live harmoniously with each other, we'll have a country called Nigeria that will be progressive in nature. But if we don't respect each other's profession, we don't respect and appreciate each other, even in terms of identity, we'll not get it right. All right. So what I'm trying to say in summary is that most of the conflict, you have issue of identity, you have issue of profession, and you have us not respecting each other's identity, each other's profession. I think this is not right. Well, that's why when conflict starts, so that supporters of this profession gang up together, supporters of this identity gang up together, and you begin to fight each other, and then you have reprisal attacks. And if we keep on that, Nigeria will not succeed.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator. Well, Dr. Fayetton, very well put, I think, by the Senator, bearing in mind his position. He has to be a statesman, has to be a nationalist. He didn't talk about alleged Fulani herdsmen involvement in the mix, complicating whole matters. Stayed with identity and misunderstandings around that. But as you know, it is alleged that there also are marauding Fulanis creating a lot of the problem there. Look, Tony, give me your idea, your thoughts on the situation in Benue. And as I said at the very, very top, the most important thing is, how do we stop it? Well, if we don't get to the base, to the root of it, it might be difficult to stop. So what do you think, Tony?
I think I would just go with, how do we stop it? Without prejudice to blame game, causes and all those. In as much as it is important for us to know the root cause and causes of some of these crises. But the fact remains that some of the causes are in public domain. And many a times we have severally advocated for a political will to be able to solve all this. Thank God we have a new government. And from the signature of what we have seen so far, there seems to be a high level of seriousness. We're expecting a different narrative in terms of security solution under this government. But having said so, I think one of the things that we want to strongly advocate, not just in Plateau State, but all over the country, is for the government to look at the possibility of having a special intervention project in the form of a rural security force. Basically, as we speak today now, we all know that we need to approach it kinetically and non-kinetically. The non-kinetic approach, yes, we'll talk about advocacy, you talk about, orientation and reorientation, training, talking about community, trying to conflict resolution and the like. But the fact remains that there are some of them that are non-recalcitrant. They are just not ready they are just not ready to listen. They are just not ready for anything called negotiation and all those stuff like that. Now, if the government is able to have a special team, it's an intervention team. It needn't be a permanent one. It's an intervention team, because even when you come to the negotiation table, or you come to the issue of trying to talk about conflict resolution and the like, there must be somebody who has gained upper hand, and it is the person that has gained upper hand that dictates the pace of any negotiation, of any discussion, of any meeting, of any resolution, of any conflict resolution in any way whatsoever. So as we speak today, now, from what I've seen in Plateau State, there have been several meetings, there have been several resolution attempts, even governors, president have intervened and the like. Now, why is this subsisting is because government has not stand its ground, and government has not taken the bold step to make example out of those that are causing mayhem. It's not an excuse that, your cattle was rustled, and that becomes an excuse for you to do what? To attack community. It's not an excuse that, okay, your farm was destroyed. That's an excuse for you to keep people's cow. So if government had not been able to take that decisive decision to make examples of some of these things, I think this thing may continue. Another thing is that, you see, while I was advocating for forest security force, forest security force, is basically because that is their point of hibernation. That is where they train. That's where they keep their supplies and logistics and all those things like that. That is where you talk about the hideout of criminals, kidnapped victims and the like. Now, if the government is able to have a special intervention force, now it's going to be drawn out of all the military forces. Army, Navy, Air Force, NSCDC and the like. Draw all of them together, give them special training on forest guards, or forest security. Now it's going to also be a proactive one. You are not going to wait until a village is attacked. You identify the hideout of these places. You are well armed and you are well kitted in such a manner that you have the support of the Air Force for area surveillance and area attack. You have the support of the military too. You have the support of the NSCDC and the custom. Now it becomes a special force on its own. And what their responsibility does not have anything to do in the cities at all. At all. They don't have anything. In short, their camp, their stations, their offices are in the forest, so to say. If the Boko Harams, if the herdsmen, if these criminals can stay in the forest, I think the military can do better than that. So as far as I'm concerned, the mountains are their hideouts. The caves are their hideout. The forests are their hideout. Now we are talking about security in the city. Leave it to the police. Leave it to conventional security forces and the like. Now have a special force. I'm not saying that now the regular security team do their normal work. But this one is a special intervention force. It is imperative as we speak now. Because if you talk about the non-kinetic approach, you want to bring them on the table and the like. And what, if you invite them, they didn't come. What will you do? But if you have been able to establish your authority, your might, and your ability to do and undo, if you invite them, they will come. Just let me flash you back to the era of Obasanjo and then Yar'Adua. Precursor to Yar'Adua's takeover, you will remember that Obasanjo had dealt decisively with the Niger Delta boys to the extent that they could not leave the creek to even go and buy food in the city. It became a hell on earth for them. They were hungry. Things were very bad for them. Now, when Yar'Adua came and said, gentlemen, let's talk amnesty, you saw the way they jumped at it. Why? Because federal government had been able to establish its authority that, look, if we are looking at you, it's because we just want to look at you as our children. As we speak today, has the government be able to establish its authority in its totality? The answer is, of course, no, especially in regions like Niger State, Southern Kaduna, Plateau State as a whole. Now look at these three states and Benue State. How many examples have the government been able to decisively bring out from those places? That's why we will look at a situation where we talk about the politicians, the village heads, and the like, bring these people together, have meeting with them, look at the resolution, like the senator said, a win-win approach. You have done this, don't do it again. You too, you have done this, don't do it again. That is at the city level. Now the community level and all those. But at the level of the forest, there should be those that were able to say, if they have spoken with you, if they have pacified you, and you are still demonically possessed to the extent that you still want to go back to your vomit, then we are ready to deal with you decisively. Then it also means that the government must also bring in the traditional institution into it. Because if you are talking about forest security, you are talking about villages and mountains. There is no way the community, the traditional rulers will not be involved. They know their forest. They know the gods. They know the prodigy of the gods and all those stuff like that. They know the mountains there. They know who approaches their forest. They have the hunters. They all order the obas, the emirs and the kings. Why don't you bring in these people and give them a role that they become accountable? If there's any crisis in your community, forget about your throne. And at the same time, you also give them incentives to be able to do what? Make them do that work. It will reduce the workload on the security forces. What is the numerical strength of the security forces we are talking about as a whole? What is they are not up to 2 million as a whole.
Well, let me bring this to the senator. Senator Plank, you just heard Dr. Ofoyetan there. I wonder what your evaluation is of this phenomenon we refer to in Nigeria as the political will. Oftentimes we hear that the will is lacking, that there are people who want the status quo to remain. So what would be your evaluation of the caliber or quality of this political will people are talking about? And Governor Caleb Mufwang, can you bring anything new to the table, do you think?
I want to thank you so much, TVC. I want to thank my brother, the doctor, that has spoken from a very cohesive point of view, a desire for us to find solutions. As I rightly said, it's not time for judgment. This is a period for understanding. This is a period for us to be all responsible, because this conflict knows no party. This conflict knows no tribe as victims. The conflict bullets does not have an identity as to the victim it would want to touch. So we are all in it. I sincerely believe that we have a new government, and I'm very happy with the addresses of the president, our president, Tinubu, Ahmed Tinubu. I was, during the period of our leadership formation, I had an opportunity of meeting with the president twice, and I was happy that in one of our meetings as legislators, national legislators, he briefed us about what was happening in Mangu, and that he had an ample opportunity to discuss with the governor, Barrister Khalid Mufang, His Excellency, at length. And from the talking, from what I gather from the presentation of the president, I see a president who is a listener, and I see a president who has a will to bring to an end or reduce drastically the crisis level in our country. So I am very hopeful. Then, when I came with, I'm a new person in the Senate, and those of us that are just coming in, probably we might have difficulties to make our presentations. When I brought my motion to the leadership of the Senate to give me an opportunity to express myself, in fact, the moment I brought my motion, it was accepted. And in the presentation of my motion at the National Assembly, the 10th Senate, it will surprise you to find out that my dear brothers in the Senate from the far north, particularly Senator Ndube, and then the former Governor Tambuwal, and then a senator from KB, and most of our senators from the far north, they welcome my issue, spoke at length on my issue. The Senate in its totality agree with my motion, and then I had 4 prayers that I brought, and all the 4 prayers were accepted. Then the senator from KB brought additional prayer that the state government should organize state vigilante to join hands with the conventional military on site to bring to an end the crisis in the state. And at the end of the day, they said my motion would not only be limited to Plateau, but it should be a Nigerian issue. And I remember vividly the Senate Chief Whip, Senator Ndube, said, even if the issue of security will be the only achievement of the 10th Senate, then we've done the best. Because there's no way you'll have a country and a progressive country where there is no peace. There's no way you will have a progressive country where the citizens are not secured. And then Section 14, subsection 2 of our Constitution states that the primary function of a government is the peace and security, welfare and security of its citizens. So when the citizens are not taken care of, when the citizens are not secured, it means government is not functioning, because it's the primary function of government. But what I'm trying to say there is that when you are talking about, you are bringing a security issue with a wish for a collective contribution, when you dwell more on identity, it's a reflex act. If they tell you that Yorubas are killing Igbos, the moment an Igbo man sees a Yoruba man on the street, he will start abusing him, because it is said that Yorubas are killing Igbos. And you won't know why a Yoruba is killing an Igbo man, but it will say Yorubas are killing Igbos. If you dwell too much that the Marvel people are killing Fulanis, any Fulani man who sees a Marvel man feels he's a bad man. Or if you are told that Fulani are killing Marvel people, the moment a Marvel man sees a Fulani man, he will be angry, not knowing what has happened. So we would rather want to wish that there is a lot of criminality amongst us, and the criminality can be nipped from the bud. Yeah, it could be a Fulani, a response from a Marvel man with a criminal act. But then we need to bring the two parties together for an understanding, and then we should be able to reprimand whoever is wrong, as rightly said, and then try to build trust on the two
two identified sets of persons.
Okay.
I believe that we've been living together for long. And then, what am I saying? Government will matter a lot. And I will really want to use this opportunity to thank the federal government. Because one of our prayers, prayer number 4, was that the chief.
I think we've lost that connection, momentarily. But okay, we'll see the opportunity, Dr. Ofayeton, to take a break now. And when we come back, we'll continue and also include your calls. Stay with us, please.
In the month of July, on the 2nd of July, the global community celebrates World Sport Journalists Day. The 5th of July is the first anniversary of the Kuje prison attack when some Boko Haram insurgents escaped. The 7th of July marks 25 years since the winner of the June 12, 1993 presidential election, MKO Abiola, died. His death occurred in 1998. 11th of July is World Population Day, while 15th is World Youth Skills Day. On the 17th, attention is turned to World Day for International Justice, while 18th of July is Nelson Mandela Day to honor the former South African leader. 25th of July is the World Diaspora Day, and on the 28th, the World Hepatitis Day is commemorated, as well as the World Nature Conservation Day. On the 29th of July, President Bola Tinubu will mark 2 months in office. And the 30th of July is World Day Against Trafficking in Persons. Brace up and tune in to TVC News for in-depth analysis and reports. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Okay, welcome back, and we're looking into stopping the killings in Kano. How doable? It's been going on for far too long. People remember, who are familiar with the issue, remember over 2 decades so far. Killings, reprisals, crisis tomorrow. You've heard what you've heard. In the meantime, Mr. Bubakar in Kano State called in while we were away on break. Good morning to you, sir.
Hello, good morning, Uncle Yori. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Please go ahead.
Let me contribute to this program of killings in Plateau and other places in Nigeria.
Sure.
Yeah, one is that, you see, the issue of indigenous...
Wow. Mr. Bubakar, are you there? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you very well.
Okay, we lost you for a moment there. Please continue. What we just heard was the issue of indigenship.
Non-indigenous. What bring it out?
Yes.
Yes. Why is the issue? Okay. Indigenous and non-indigenous. Why? I mean, what brings about? We're all Nigerians. That is one. Political leaders and traditional leaders are involved in these cases, not only in Plateau State, but in other parts of the country. And second is the level of poverty that is going around in Nigeria. There is no equity and fairness. There is no justice in this country. Whoever does wrong, he must be brought to book. And it's not an issue of, I belong to this or I don't belong to that. Whoever is found wanting, he should be tried. People in the Senate or minister, whoever he is, should not be involved. If somebody is caught wanted, they should allow the law to treat its course. So the issue of this ethnicity in Nigeria is our main problem, and we will not progress until the government is ready to do it. See, a lot of killings in Nigeria are being done by bandits. A lot of people are arrested in Plateau, in Taraba, in other places. Why can't they be tried? Why can't people know how the trial, ends? We don't know. People are being set free. because they belong to one political party or the other. And this should not be done. If ethnicity and indigenization is a serious issue, America wouldn't have been what it is today. Most of the people in America that are contributing to the development of America are not Americans. But they are free to do whatever they want to do. Now, if we want progress, why can't we forget our differences and put Nigeria at first? Why should I be called an indigenous of Kano or an indigenous of Taraba? We're all Nigerians. If we cause anything, any mayhem in Nigeria, our brothers, our sisters, our children will be affected. Governments, especially federal government, is not sincere. I am telling you.
All right, then.
From the point of view of what we learned. Because equity and fairness and justice must prevail.
Okay.
And the primary responsibility of any government is the protection of lives and property.
Okay.
Are they doing it? They're not doing it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abubakar, calling in from Kano. Tony, we come back to this issue of the political will to do the right thing. You just heard that contributor saying that fairness, equity seems to be lacking in these matters. People don't want to call a spade, and so on and so forth. Yet, that is where the solution would lie, surely. You can't build, as you lawyers say, you can't build something on nothing. And if there is no equity, then there is no nothing. If there's no assurance of fairness, then there's no nothing. If people are being, you purposely look away from identifying who is responsible, and when you are forced not to be able to look away, you just heard that gentleman say that people are just released and you don't hear anything more about it. So is there a human problem, never mind a political will problem as well?
I think it's a combination of all factors. And the problem from the government itself, in the name of politics and politicians, happen to be one of the major problems when it comes to prosecuting offenders, especially of terrorism and terrorism related. Another thing that I think has also been emboldening this is the fact that it is we that manufacture the excuses for the terrorists. I've not had the terrorists come out to say, these are the reasons why we are doing this. But we, the elites, are the people manufacturing these excuses. And I just wonder if these excuses are tenable when you present these people before a law court. You understand? Now, the excuses of indigenship, the excuses of, Uratu, Makatu, unemployment, and the like, whether the court will avail you as that being a defense for killing a fellow Nigerian. Now, if that is not the case, for me, I think we should first of all stop this idea of constructing excuses for the terrorist. If the law has said these are the conditions precedent to being called or tagged a terrorist, and these people have actually gone through that route, they should be called their proper names and they should be prosecuted as such. Look, we are all in Nigeria. There is nothing called, as we speak today, the same petrol a poor man buys is the same thing a rich man buys. We all have reasons to bear arms. We all have reasons to be angry. You have reason to be angry, Okuyori. I have reason to be angry. But I'm not killing people. On daily basis, we see provocation, even from the government and government policies and the like. But we thank God that, okay, as we speak now, we are still very hopeful that the government now is putting machinery in place to address some of these little things. Now, the follow-up of the failure of previous government should be stopped immediately. Now, when you have a situation like this, now because what the terrorists will normally do is that they want to see, they want to send a message to the present service chiefs, the security agencies and the government. So they want to come all out as if we are still in control. What do? You that is already in power and you have a fresh energy, fresh power, fresh enthusiasm, you should also be able to send a stronger message. I think that is where I will call all the newly appointed service chiefs and inspector general of police to understand that, look, this is no longer like malaria. We are not talking of terrorism at cancerous level. So if we're talking of terrorism at cancerous level, it is no longer excuse that we don't have money, we don't have budget, we don't have mail, we don't have equipment. All those things become stale and lazy men's excuses. You must be able to improvise. You must be able to send a message. Because as we speak now, look, from what I think I was hearing on one of these, the terrorists have gone to the extent of even acquiring drones, and drones that are even capable of, detonating and sending explosives and the like. Now, if you allow them, and they already have Turaya for the purpose of communication, irrespective of where they are in the forest, they have Turaya, they can communicate, they don't need your GSM, they are already satellite phones, they are already talking about drones, they are already talking about how to use the drones to send bombs, they don't need a suicide bomber and all those stuff like that, and we are still at this stage. No, we should be more proactive than this. We should think far, far, far ahead. Because these people, look at who are those that are funding them, who are those that are supporting them, who are the sleeper cell, even inside the military formation and security agencies. By now, I think that the security agencies should actually do 10 times more. So there's a lot of work to do. Who are those, especially at international level? It's even easy to talk about, caging and coercing those that are in this. Who are their collaborators and sponsors at international level? Who are those that sold the drone to them? And drone ought to go through some certification before they can be used in this country. How come they have access to such satellite phones? And the government is not aware and all those stuff like that. Why come they still have training camps? Why is their supply chains like? Now, these are things that I know the government knows these things. Security agents, they know these things. Then the question should be, forget about some of these excuses. Stamp your authority. When you establish your authority, then you call for a meeting. Okay. You call for negotiation. It becomes easier.
Remember, we've been saying this kind of thing in relation to Boko Haram way back. We've been hearing what we've been hearing. That they're Nigerians too. They might be recalcitrant at the moment, and so on and so forth. Good morning, Mr. George, and thank you for holding on.
Good morning, Uncle Yori, and good morning to your guests.
Yes.
Uncle Yori, what Tony is saying as to the extent to which the bandits have gone is worrisome. I hope the president and his men are listening. But let me restrict my comments today to the killings in Plateau State. That's the topic. The killings in Plateau State, from those of us who look at it from outside, it looks to me as if the truth of the matter is not yet known. I would like the senator to please explain what is the origin of these clashes. Is it truly...
Well, he has said that. He has said that's going to be a difficult thing to do. Yes. I started asking him about that.
They have critical stakeholders. He is a leader there. They have traditional rulers. They have community leaders. They have people who represent these warring factions. So why is it that they are finding it difficult to know what is wrong? Because some time ago, some of the members of the Mangu community, they were complaining that they don't want the security people there anymore, that their commander has been compromised and that some Fulani elements have infiltrated those who are supposed to be defending them. Matters have grown worse to that level. So it looks like it's not something that you just bring security men to go and settle once and for all. The underlying cause of that killing needs to be established, because if you want to solve a problem, you have to first of all understand what the problem is. I want the senator to explain further. I'm not yet clear about the explanations he has given. We want to know the truth about it before one can. Even the government itself needs to know the actual truth about what is going on there before they can address it. Otherwise, you just bring military men to chase people away. When you live there, the next week they regroup again. When the truth of the matter is not known. That's the way I see it.
All right, then. Thank you very much for calling in, Mr. George. Senator Plank, so we return to a point you addressed at the very beginning of this conversation, that that would probably be a bit difficult to determine the origin of. But if the origin of a crisis is lost in obscurity, we have a Herculean task trying to address it with the transparency that is necessary for such delicate operations as this? Well, that viewer wished that you would elaborate a bit more on this crucial problem of how transparent can we get? And if we're not going to be transparent, how can we be how can we really, be optimistic about solving the problem? Senator?
Thank you so much, my contributors. I know that you love peace. Your wish is for Plateau to be secured. And I thank you also, the media, for creating time to talk about us. And I know it is your desire that we improve on the peaceful status of Plateau. I will go into that a little, but before I go on to that, I would wish to affirm to you that I see the political will. And as you all know, when there is a political will and all of us are on the same page, there will be understanding. We'll talk on the same issue. We'll have the same correction and same advice, and probably we shall have understanding that will lead us to a level of more trust amongst ourselves. I said I see a political will from the president, from the demonstration and what he does, even for the reorganization of the security leadership. For me, the president stepped down to a particular level and then brought out fresh generals to man the security leaderships of the various armed forces and divisions. Now, I also want to see a political will from the Senate. The ability of the Senate, the way the Senate accepted my motion and the way they condemned it and the way they agreed on my motion, independent of identity, independent of where they are coming from, and feel that security will be the only thing we will solve. So I see a political will from the Senate.
Okay.
I also see.
I beg your pardon, Senator. I beg your pardon for interrupting you. But
I'll come to your point. I want to come to your point. Then I also see political will from the state, because the governor is restless. Although I'm APC, he's PDP, but I see him walking around. I see will, even from traditional rulers. Now, you are trying to ask me, what is the original cause? I see a lot. And I believe that there are a lot of roundtable discussions. I know that there are different commissions set. But at the end of the day, the results of most of these resolutions are not taken care of. My brother has said, we are in Nigeria, and as a Nigerian, wherever you find yourself, the issue of indigence should not be emphasized. And I said, right, if there is equity, if a man from Plateau can go to Adamawa and you will have no problem, and if you can go to Sokoto and have no problem, or go to Iman and you will have no problem, then you know in the state, he will open up. But if you are not free somewhere, in your state, you would wish that, okay, since this is the only place I have, I should be able to own what is mine. But I said again, I see a lot happening on the plateau. And at the end of the day, it is seen as probably there is a desire for land grabbing. There is a desire to occupy mineral resources. And you know, when you have such things at a particular period, crises are bound to come. People will want to occupy the place. And you know, with desertification, and our brothers are into rearing, most of people are shifting down to our areas because of the availability of water, grass, and so on. And the influx is causing crisis.
Okay, all right. I beg your pardon, Senator. Forgive me, Senator, but I've got to interrupt now because, thank you very much, Senator. Mazi Okorafor has been holding on for a while. He wants to contribute to the conversation. Good morning to you, Mazi.
Good morning, Sir Jody. You see, this issue of Plateau State since 2001. Can we find solution? Is this the solution? is it solvable or preventable? The issue is that it's solvable. Now, can we go to the causes instead of chasing the symptoms? Is it political? Is it cattle rustling? Is it religion? Is it farmland? Is it mineral resources? Now, who are the people bringing the ammunition to that place? So I don't understand this, the way we are moving in this country. We cannot be coming every day in a particular state. The same thing in Benue State, the same thing in United States. We are chasing the symptoms instead of chasing the causes. Who are these people? Don't we know them? What happened to the local government? What happened to the state? Are they not there? So what happened to the youth? Every day we continue something that, look, the area we have to listen to this in the country, they look at it in the state, 2001, mark it 2001, go and trace the history. So I don't know why people, when we talk about this, that we are just dancing. We know the right thing to do, nobody cares about it. Look at how many vehicles have been burned in that state from 2001 to date. How many people have been killed? And every day we sit and say, well, let God help us, because the way we are going, we are not finding solution to all this, because the area we find the solution to it, the better for us so that we move forward. Good morning. Look at the mineral resources. People go there and everything.
Thank you very much, Mazi. Appreciate your call. Well, so there you have it, Tony. It's almost like we're going around in circles because we all feel a need to be, quote-unquote, politically correct in our speech. And nobody wants to be seen to be an ethnic jingoist.
Yeah.
So this is part of the challenge. But it's quite frustrating because the loss of one human life is too much. Not to mention, the vast numbers. If it is not in its, it must be in its thousands. We're talking about over 2 decades now. So, in a different context, people say there's no end in sight. I'm sure you're not going to be as pessimistic as that, because it just keeps on and on and on. And people are not going to...
I'm not a pessimistic person as far as the war against terrorism is concerned. I think I would only expect that if the president is ready to step on toes, irrespective of whose or is God, if he is able to take the bull by the horn, which I believe he is able.
You're talking about the president now or the governor?
The president. Okay. President. No, this is beyond Plateau State. Let's be realistic. Okay. This is not a Plateau State governorship thing. Not at all. You see, it would have been easy for state to deal with such situation if they allow state security apparatus to bear arms. Now, if they allow state security apparatus to bear arms, I will tell you that the security challenges in all the rural area will reduce by 80%, because at that point in time, they will know that, okay, these people are capable of resisting any form of attack. Look, if non-state actors are bearing arms,
that's a problem,
and they are brandishing it, why are we hypocritical in this country?
Okay,
what stops the Amotekun from bearing arms?
Tony, we've almost run out of time. Let me get back to the senator. Senator, this is a very, very long conversation that we've tried to condense into less than an hour, as impossible as that sounds. But what would be your parting words now? Because this is a conversation that must continue after this. Parting words, Senator, on this topic.
Honestly, I see a president who is willing to make a move towards the end of the crisis. I also see my people who are willing to cooperate with the system if the system is right. I feel the greatest challenge we have now is for the security to take advantage of the political will available now to do justice.
All right.
And ensure that there is peace.
We're going to have to leave it there, Senator. I beg your pardon, Senator. We're really going to have to leave it there. Your citing of the political will now available to be able to do the right thing. Tony, I want to thank you very much. Did you have a parting shot, just as a bullet point in seconds?
Well, I think the only thing I would just say, which I've said before, is the government should really consider the suggestion of rural security network. It's imperative as we speak.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Tony Ofeyeton, Director General, International Institute of Professional Security. And thanks to Senator Dickett Plang, Senator representing Plateau Central Senatorial District, trying to give us an insight into the situation over there. Thank you very much, Senator, for your time. Okay, then, that's our program. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folani. Bye-bye for now.
The following is a paid presentation by ShopX TV.
Do you spend the night trying to get comfortable? Your knees rub bone on bone, your back and hips ache. You wake up in pain? Not anymore. ShopX TV is proud to introduce the Contour Legacy Pillow, the patented, ergonomically designed tapered leg pillow that naturally fits the contours of your legs, knees and thighs to help align your spine